This is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. A major shakeup for the Lockwood School District School Board and community. A Lockwood School Board trustee is sitting in the Yellowstone County Jail tonight on charges of rape and sexual assault. These allegations stem from an encounter at the trustee's home, not at the school. But as Q2's Andrea Lutz reports, Lockwood school officials are fielding calls from concerned parents while taking a close look at district policies.
61-year-old Joseph Borgstrom notified Lockwood School District officials on Friday, saying he was resigning from his position as a trustee. It's a position he's held for 7 years. The Lockwood superintendent confirmed Borgstrom was a trustee for the school board up until recently. Court documents say an investigation revealed Borgstrom sexually assaulted a 12-year-old girl, the victim taken to Billings Clinic for a medical evaluation.
You know, it's obviously a black eye for the community. It's obviously a black eye for our school district. You can work with somebody or serve on community boards with somebody and go to church with them, whatever else, and you don't really know what's going on in the home.
Navaggio says there's an active police investigation, but the position of a trustee is elected, and because of that, background checks don't happen.
One of the goals that the board set for me a couple years ago was to look into some things like doing background checks for trustees, because we do issue like a school ID and a few other things. And
he also points out that while trustees do make decisions on policy and staffing, they don't have more access to students. Prosecutors say detectives found evidence of a sexual assault in Borgstrom's home, obtaining a search warrant. Borgstrom is set to appear for his arraignment Tuesday. In Lockwood, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Thanks, Andrea. Borgstrom was serving a trustee term until May of this year. He was not reelected to the board in the most recent election. His term was set to end this week. Billings Clinic today, a lasting monument to the hard work and dedication the hospital's nursing staff. It was unveiled for the first time today. The ceremony in the clinic's healing garden is part of celebrating National Nurses Week, a time that nurses are grateful for after many months of long hours dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Q2's Mitch Legge has more.
From the very first cases to the rollout of a brand new vaccine, no one has felt the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic quite like our nation's healthcare workers. At Billings Clinic on Monday, staff unveiled a lasting monument to their nursing staff at the start of a week of appreciation.
Last year was just tremendously tough for the healthcare organization all over the world, but here in Billings, our nurses stepped up.
Billings Clinic staff unveiled the statue, which sits in the healing garden, a welcome respite of green space to contrast the hospital and downtown atmosphere. The work is titled A Healer's Touch and was hand-carved by the Shona tribe in Zimbabwe. The sculpture is a representation of the bond between people giving and receiving care.
The greatest compliment that we could ever receive are kind words from our patients telling us how we've touched their lives and made such a significant difference for them.
The ceremony Monday kicks off a week of recognition for Billings Clinic nurses. Nationwide, nurses are recognized from May 6th through the 12th in National Nurses Week, honoring the important role that nurses play in the medical care team. Johnny Baker, a certified oncology nurse who's been with Billings Clinic for 10 years, said the celebrations are great, but the kind words and thanks from patients and their families go a long way.
They kind of show us recognition every day, which is one of the great reasons to be a nurse. When you get to go home, even though you might have had a rough day, you do feel like you did something good in the world that day.
The week of recognition continues on Wednesday with an awards ceremony scheduled for 1 p.m. at Dealer Park in Billings. The ceremony will be live streamed on the clinic's Facebook page, and people will be allowed to attend in person. However, they will be required to wear masks. In Billings, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
Thank you, Mitch. Another sign of appreciation for the nurses popped up near the end of last week. Iron workers constructing a new neonatal intensive care unit strung up this banner that can be seen from inside the emergency department. Yellowstone County is now offering up cash, paying people in an effort to persuade them to get their COVID-19 vaccination. Riverstone Health announced today that the first 400 people who get their vaccination at the Shrine Auditorium on Thursday will receive $50. That money is provided by the Riverstone Health Foundation after a donor stepped up with a $20,000 gift for those that want a chance to receive that vaccine. And $50, you do need to be one of the first 400 people to go to the Shrine Auditorium on Thursday. The vaccination times are between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and then from 3 to 7 p.m. And the vaccine-eligible pool will soon be expanding in Yellowstone County as the FDA has authorized Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine for young people ages 12 to 15. It's a move that will allow about 17 million teenagers to get the shots and could be another step in reopening schools nationwide this fall. Pfizer says its 2-dose vaccine was found to be highly effective in this younger age group during recent clinical trials and without any serious side effects. Over the last 2 weeks, infections in kids are up 4%, making up 24% of all new cases. In a recent study, only a third of parents with children between ages 12 to 15 said they would certainly get their kids vaccinated. Well, noting the rising vaccination rates in Montana, Senator Steve Daines wants the Biden administration to be more aggressive about reaching an agreement to reopen the Canadian border to regular traffic. MTN's Dennis Bragg continues to follow the issue of border barriers.
There's still no sign of breakthrough in efforts to resume anything but commercial essential travel through Montana's ports of entries with Canada. And as we've shown you before, it's keeping cross-border families separated by the COVID restrictions.
Well, this is going to take leadership from the top. And the hypocrisy that we're seeing at the moment from the Biden administration is frustrating many Montanans. I was having these conversations in eastern Montana on Friday. On one hand, President Biden has got the southern border wide open to illegal immigrants and drugs flooding across the border. On the other hand, the northern border is closed, and that's affecting, of course, our economies, tourism, and the ability for just Montanans, Canadians to get back and forth across the border to engage economically.
That frustration continues to churn as Montanans see a flood of immigrants coming across the U.S.-Mexican border in recent months. Some see that as a sharp contrast to the Canadian border, where hardly anyone is crossing, although some Canadians are finding a variety of loopholes around strict rules controlling air and ground travel and quarantines. Canadian vaccination rates continue to lag behind Montana in particular, but Daines believes a case can be made for reopening.
The data is compelling. The vaccination rates are up. The infection rates are going down. We can safely open up the northern border. We need President Biden to come to agreement with Canada. So as our economies open up, we need to get the Canadians to open up the border, and we need the leadership to start the top with President Biden.
Senator Daines says he'll continue to press the administration to find a workable solution for both borders.
So we're putting pressure on the president, the administration. We need to open the northern border to support our economy. And we need to secure the southern border. And the hypocrisy is seen by so many Montanans, and we need action at the top.
In Missoula, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
Senator John Tester has also urged Montanans to get vaccinated to help make a stronger case for reopening the Canadian border. All right, time to take a quick look at the weather with Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. And Ed, most of the state really needed some spring moisture. How'd we do this weekend?
We did pretty well in some places. Others, they're really struggling and would like to see a bit more. Here are some of the counties across southern Montana into northern Wyoming. And rainfall totals that were reported came anywhere from around 1/100th of an inch all the way up to 1.8 inches. That was around the Wilsall area in Park County around Livingston. And then we also had some reports of snow as well. Now on the map where you see, the shaded areas, the green, that shows where we had rainfall totals coming in at 1/2 inch up to almost 2 inches, over 2 inches around Augusta. And then the red shaded areas show where we had snow around the port of Opine, right along the Canadian border. 4.5 inches of snow reported there. We'll be back with a look at the forecast details in a little bit.
All right, thank you, Ed. Congress gets back to work this week following a recess. One of the first items on the agenda for House Republicans will be a vote Wednesday on whether they want to remove Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney as the GOP conference chair, the number 3 position in the House Republican caucus. Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
Congresswoman Liz Cheney's time as one of the leaders of House Republicans appears to be coming to an end.
Everyone in leadership serves at the pleasure of the conference.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy announced this weekend that he supports replacing the Wyoming Congresswoman as the conference chair. He says he believes New York's Elise Stefanik will do a better job of representing House Republicans.
As conference chair, you have one of the most critical jobs of the messenger of going forward.
Cheney lost support from many within her party because she refused to support former President Trump's baseless claims that the 2020 election was stolen. Congresswoman Cheney, who is actually viewed as more conservative than Stefanik, wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post saying her party is at a turning point, and Republicans must decide whether we are going to choose truth and fidelity to the Constitution.
Tell people the truth and quit peddling in conspiracies, because that's what we've seen in this party, and they're going to get rid of Liz Cheney.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger agrees with Cheney that loyalty to former President Trump over truth is hurting the GOP.
Right now, it's basically the Titanic. We're like, you know, in the middle of this slow sink. We have a band playing on the deck, telling everybody it's fine. And meanwhile, as I've said, you know, Donald Trump's running around trying to find women's clothing and get on the first lifeboat.
McCarthy appears to have more than enough votes to remove Cheney from her position. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
And former President Trump released a statement saying he supports Elise Stefanik in her bid to replace Liz Cheney. Still ahead on the NTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, days after a piece of Montana history was destroyed by a fire, we hear words of hope that the M&M Bar and Cafe can rise from the ashes. And a little later in sports, Stars will be out this Wednesday. We'll meet the best boys in Billings as they vie for Athlete of the Year.